here we are at the Semjase Silver Star Center, that's in Schmidrüti in the canton Zürich in Switzerland. I'm Christian Frehner, I'm 67 years old and I'm a member of the core group since 1987. And I have quite a variety of tasks within FIGU. I'm working in the forest, I'm responsible for filming, photographing, and I'm with another member, I'm checking the Jahresrechnung, the finances once a year. And I'm a part of the group that does correcting of all the writings that we are publishing. And I'm a part of the working group overpopulation and informatics, internet, all these kinds of things. And I'm responsible for legal questions and a couple of other tasks also. FIGU was founded in 1975 by Billy, and it became an officially community, officially recognized by the authorities in 1978. And the basic name is FIGU, Freie Interessengemeinschaft Universell. This is translated Free Community of Interest Universal. That's in short the name, and we have, of course, a longer version of this. But this FIGU, Freie Interessengemeinschaft Universell, that explains and covers everything of our intentions and the goals and objectives of our community. In every community you will realize that there are human beings who are more into the efforts, more active than others. Many people just want to be passive or support a society or a group by paying membership fees or by thinking positively about the goals and objectives of this organization. And here in the Semjase Silver Star Center, it was necessary that a small group of dedicated human beings started to build the center, because what you see here now, all these trees around here were planted by the core group, by Billy and the core group, because this was a very devastated area, very neglected, and so this needed a lot of work. And you have to have really a core of members who are convinced, who are really understand the meaning and the purpose of this FIGU. Billy Meyer is a man born in 1937 in Bülach in Switzerland, and he had his first contact with an extraterrestrial man at the age of 5. And since then he had, throughout his life until now and until he dies, with these extraterrestrial human beings. And he has, there's a reason behind this, of course, and he has, we are saying, a mission to fulfill, and this mission is to bring the spiritual teaching to humankind of this planet. That's actually the mission and his real tasks. And so we can look upon him as kind of a teacher. That's his role. The reason why he is not goes not to the public anymore since decades, actually, he went to the public at the beginning because there were two tasks he should have to fulfill. First, to raise a UFO controversy and to inform about the existence of the spiritual teaching. The UFO controversy was for bringing attention worldwide to the Billy Meyer case, and so he had to give public lectures and all kinds of things, do interviews. But now, for a long time, he is in the background because he says, "It's not me. I'm not an important person. What's important is the teaching." And we know human beings always strive for making a hype of various persons, film stars, and the Dalai Lama, and everyone that has a little bit of fame, to put them onto a pedestal and to even to pray for these human beings, and that is something that he dislikes entirely, basically. This was in 1981. This red meteor was first mentioned in a contact report. Because I know from you that this is a topic of this interview, and I had a look into it. This was in the 150th contact of 10th of October 1981. And I've just also did a search in the internet on Wikipedia and have noticed that this Apophis was detected by terrestrial scientists on the 19th June of 2004. In 2004, this book was published here. As we can see, it's block number 4. And of course, when this book is being produced, there is about nearly a year before it goes through the correctors and all kinds. So this we started on 2003 with correcting this. And before this book came out, there were 2 other editions of the contact reports. The first one with the yellow cover. These started in 1976 or so, and then we had the ones 200 pages books with the brown cover. I had all these And this is the third edition. And in all the other ones, this information was also contained, and I can show you the copyright here. Everyone who has this book can see this 2004 is in here. And this is starting with August 1980 and goes to, these are the contacts number 133 to 181 through 1980 to 1982 December. These were the persons involved in these contact reports within these books here. Semjase, Quetzalcoatl and Electra, these 4 people. And now, by the end of this year, block 16 will come out, will be published. Every of these books has 500 pages. It's very interesting reading. Contact reports, these are contact reports, and herein all officially meetings between Billy and these extraterrestrial human beings are written down. When Billy and these persons are sitting together, for instance in his office, they are talking, and then a part of these talks is official for us to know, and quite a lot of time of these meetings are private, and from the private parts there is no recording being made. Of course, the Plejaren themselves are recording all these talks, and these are preserved. You can understand it like if you're recording here with the camera, and it's recorded on a storage device. And then since Billy has learned telepathy at the age of 5, he is able to retrieve this information, to tap into this information, and writing with one hand, writing it down. And then that's the result is preserved here for entire future of this planet. The red meteor, because you see in the prophecies, prophecies have a kind of peculiar style of writing, just as the Plejaren, when they are speaking about scientific information, they use familiar terms of speaking. They don't go like our scientists, all kinds of expressions that nobody understands outside of their field. And so throughout, you will notice this throughout the contract reports, that talking about all these kinds of space objects and laws within space and the universe, they are using a simple language, and there is a purpose behind this, because human beings should understand what's being said. And this is also the case. And Apophis was it's not an invention by the Plejaren, it's an invention by the human beings here. And usually or frequently they use Greek expressions to name all kinds of objects, like the star pictures. These are actually our Greek terms that have been used. And so the red meteor was known before Apophis was named. In 2029, and exactly 7 years later, in 2036. Yes, it is said the red meteor was mentioned the first time in these contact reports in 1981. It was said that it could rip the surface of the Earth from the North Sea down to the Black Sea. That's Europe, between Russia and Germany, over there, this region. There are all kinds of nuclear plants. It could be elsewhere also. We have many plants in France, and we have a couple of them in Switzerland. And so, of course, there will be a use if this happens, and if this meteor is not deflected, then and it is crashing down, then there will be a huge devastation on this planet with worldwide effects, of course. Because if the surface of the Earth is ripped open, you have all kinds of fumes and gases coming out, and you have the air will be thick with smoke, and you will have impacts and effects for many years to come, besides the many deaths, human beings and animals and everything, and poisoning, because the stuff that will come out from the Earth, all these gases, these are poisonous, and there will be trouble, huge trouble. Yeah, it's just as you say, deflecting is the only sensible method, because blowing this meteor up is the worst that can be done, as the Plejadians say, because you don't then all these, like if you have a shotgun with I don't know the word in English, with the little bullets. It's even making more effect if you use just one bullet. It's different. If there are a lot of bullets, then you have a bigger impact, actually. And so the intelligent method would be to deflect that, to place a nuclear explosion, kind of a distance from this meteor to change the course away from Earth. This would be the sensible method. We don't have exact, at least perhaps Billy knows, but we don't have exact information. But what Da has said is that more official human beings, more people are reading our FIGU bulletins, our information, that we are thinking is the case. And if we look at the world situation, I think that the Russian, or people in Russia, or some scientists, are more open to this information than the United States, for instance. A small part of this pi value is wrong, as Semjase said I think it was in the 70s. And she also said that when the time comes that this pi value, the right and correct pi value is found by terrestrial science, then a great progress is occurring in all kinds of fields, because this pi value is connected with quite other values in mathematics, in physics, and so. And then and so a couple of years later, Guido Moosbrucker, he was a core group member. He died in the meantime. He made some calculations using distance from Earth to Sun and so on, pyramid data, and he found out this value, and we think that this value is correct. But of course we are no scientists here. We have to let the terrestrial scientists to find out the true value. We only know that the actual pi value is not correct, because if the information that we are receiving from the extraterrestrial through Billy have proven to be correct on nearly 100%. No, but we have. If you are reading conversations between human beings for quite a long time, you get a kind of an understanding of the thinking mode of these human beings. And based on the reaction of Da when he looked at these calculations made by Guido Moosbrucker, then there's a rather high probability that something is correct, or something it's not far away from the reality. And so and that's the reason. Yeah, and of course PTA, they have a directive, because if the true value of pi is confirmed here on this planet, and all the huge effects are resulting from this realization, this will be a huge an impact. And their directives prohibit that they interfere into the terrestrial matters and to disclose knowledge, deliberately disclose knowledge that has such a huge impact, because terrestrial science must evolve one step after another, and it's not good if you jump from here to this knowledge and you don't have the knowledge acquiring steps in between. And so it's a task of our terrestrial scientists, but they also said to Billy, or PTA also said to Billy, it will last a long time until the true value of pi is recognized by terrestrial science. PTA is one of these extraterrestrial human beings. He's the father of Semjase, and he is also related to Quetzal. These are names, important names in these contact reports. There are about 60 or so human beings listed in our files, in our publications, of different human beings, not all from the Pleiaren, but also from other worlds and another universe. And PTA is, since Semjase has gone away into another location, he is the principal contact person for Billy, and he's about 800 years old. Yeah, he was here about 2 years ago. I met him here, and I'm in contact with him, with his proof process, and of course we also included his findings in a new book that's called Diversicum by the late Guido Moosbrucker, and much of it in this book is written by Billy, and much information is coming from the extraterrestrials about scientific information and so. And in the back of this book, the findings of Harry Lear are also printed, included. And so I think he's on the right track. Yes, also he started, when he told me, when he heard about this pi being wrong, he was starting thinking about it and doing his own research and calculations, and that's why he came to the same result as Guido Moosbrucker, but on another way. Yes, error is quite big if this is correct. I don't know if it's about 0.003, about like a difference. About if you have the circumference of a circle, then it's of 1 meter, then it's about 3 millimeters. Yeah, I have full understanding for Harry Lear to do this, because terrestrial science, the scientists are so narrow-minded and concentrated on their field, and they on the one hand, they are privately they are religious, have a religious limit. That means a limited thinking. They are not open for full life, and many of them are within not on the culmination point of their career, and they have to control what they confirm. And any scientist who says there are UFOs and all kinds of extraterrestrials, they are looked upon as crazy or non-serious scientists. And so at least the persons he is addressing are more focusing on his calculations than on just saying, oh, he's speaking about UFOs. I don't even look at these calculations. And this actually is intelligent to do. But as he has learned so far, there is a huge ignorance occurring in the scientific field that is very connected with politics and economics, and so he has a hard task to do. But I think I can see that he's keeping at his personal mission, and that's good. No, as Apophis is certain. I don't think it's kind of a measure against stupidity of the human beings here on this planet. It's just a cosmic event. It happens every day, anywhere, that you have all kinds of objects swishing and racing through through space and falling down on planets and hitting all kinds of objects, and so. No, this is just, but we should use it as a means for unity as a human population. We know that this object is coming. People don't believe, of course. They don't accept that it's possible to look into the future, to see things coming. And they don't take the warnings, and all the politicians that were contacted by Billy in the 50s and 70s, they just laughed about them and did not take any action. And now it's just a result. But what you could compare with nature fighting back on the stupidity of human being is the destruction of this planet. That the oxygen content is diminishing, that the water is poisoned, the ground, food is poisoned, and these are just results. And other natural results or effects are that all the kinds of storms and catastrophes, environmental effects are increasing in force and in number constantly from now on. It's getting worse and worse, and much destruction is to be expected on our world. And this is directly linked and based on the behavior of the stupid and irresponsible behaving of humankind of this planet. It's peculiar because the number of 7 is actually the basic number within the structure of creation of the energy. It's not a body. The energy form that we are living, where our universe is a part of, and this number of 7 has a really important, is really important, and so it's that's actually interesting to notice that it's exactly 7 years. But then, of course, if it should have crashed down, the 7-year circle is finished. If people would really start to look at nature, what's happening in nature, how everything is unfolding in nature, they could learn actually everything concerning ourselves, how we should live, how we should have our social life, how we should think about the law of cause and effect, and of the various recommendations. But terrestrial human beings don't do this big. They rely on the false religious belief systems, and therefore we have all this mess here on this planet. No, Apophis is an object that comes from the first time from out of space here. And of course, if you have this terrible impact on Europe, you have seismic waves going around the planet, and then of course all kinds of volcanoes. I'm sure all kinds of volcanoes will explode in other regions of this planet, and all kinds of sea quakes will happen, because this will be an event, an occurrence that will affect the whole planet. And Australia cannot just sit down and look at TV, or in the United States, because they will be affected also. This huge tremor of this object crashing down will have a devastating effect, of course. But independently, whether this happens, there will be all kinds of bad events happening in the not too far future. I don't know. It depends what Russia is doing, what the United States, all these nations with the capability of going into space, what they will do in the next 10 years. It depends on this, and we don't know exactly. We don't have a 100% affirmation from the extraterrestrial that this will happen for sure. In 1981, there was kind of a couple of some percent of being that it will not hit, not crash down, and so we will see. But I don't know, and I would not receive. We would not, even the core group members, we would never receive information about 100% certainty. Because if we would say it's 100% sure, I don't think that they would even try to do something against or so, because people have to remain insecure to be able to take some actions. It's just like if you compare it with San Francisco, that will be destroyed in the not too far future. You can tell them it's something that has been published 40 years ago. You know this, and even they know that it could happen anytime. This San Andreas fault happening. They build their houses, they don't go away, but of course a couple of FIGU members have moved away from this region to other state. But the huge public, the huge bunch of masses, they don't heed these predictions, these warnings. They live their everyday life and think they will be lucky. So we are here a part of this creation universal consciousness. Schöpfung Universalbewusstsein is the name. That's actually the entity that keeps us alive. And within, we are now living in a part of this energy field, or how you will call it, with our universe. And in our universe we have all these planets and all these, like here on Earth, and billions of other worlds with human beings and civilizations, and so a huge number, countless number. And human beings have to evolve. We are living here, and when we die, a part of our quite spiritual part, a fine matter part of our us continues to exist, and then enlivens another fetus that is growing in a woman's womb. And so this is quite a long process going on, and from one life to the other life, within a new personality, human beings have to learn, like in school. And then finally, between 40 and 60 million years of existence as material human beings, comes a time when this is not necessary anymore, that it's kind of a finer kind of existence is occurring, and then there is the evolution is continuing in non-material form, and there are kinds of different stages, like you could say it's High Council is the transition period. You could compare it as kindergarten, and then or as normal school, primary school. Now we are in the kindergarten here on this planet, and you go to the High Council, that's the primary school, and then you come to the Aratatasatta level, and there are seven principal levels up to Petale level, and that's actually the highest level. And this is something we cannot comprehend with our material thinking. It's beyond this, because there is no individuality anymore. You don't have a body, you don't eat, and so it's something entirely different that we understand. And this Petali level, that's the highest before it becomes a part of of this creation universal consciousness. There's a lot of information needed behind this, what I'm just saying, and it perhaps sounds crazy, but this Petali level has a couple of times sent information to Billy, and he just had to write this down. These were prophecies and also predictions. Yeah, FIGU is not a cult. For a cult, you have a belief system. You need to have a belief system, and you have to have all kinds of peculiar actions and ceremonies and all kinds of these things, and you have to believe on something that does not exist. And this is entirely. We are not 100% not religious. Actually, we are informing about the dangers and threats of religious thinking, because religious thinking is always delusional. It's not based on reality, and our objectives are to look at everything as it is, because you will find truth only in reality. And reality is this plants here, this is reality, that the sun shines down, the sun has rays that come here, all kinds. Atoms are existing, neutrons are existing, all these kinds of things, but certainly no biblical God who killed many of human beings could have created the universe. That's crazy, That's crazy. And so the label FIGU is a cult, is made by religious people because they themselves are a part of a Catholic Church or Protestant Church. These are members of these churches. Thought or thinking is based on our consciousness, and the consciousness is connected with our brain. And actually the thoughts are being produced in our brain by the electric chemical processes that are happening in our brain. And this is the director actually is the consciousness, the material consciousness. And this material consciousness is also the principal factor of learning, of our evolution. Everything happens of our learning processes is happening here with our thinking and the resulting feelings and actions. Because if Aratatarsate would have looked into everything, you would have a book that's it's going from 1 second to the other, because they just obviously they just took glimpses of situations, and then this was transmitted to Billy. It's just like the prophecy that the Pope will be killed. You can, as long something is not a prediction, you have always the possibility that something is interfering, or there is a combination of impacts and effects from other human beings, from nature, that the course is diverted. Like for instance, when the Pope was being shot at, the shooting person was kind of was touched by someone, and so he didn't hit the Pope directly into the heart. This is always, with prophecies, it's always possible. If someone is making a prophecy or is producing, you have kind of like if you make a photo, if you make the photo now, you have this picture, and if you make the photo 2 weeks later, then you see a bird over there that has been before, and the same mechanism is also happening if you just make a snapshot of the future at an instant. You have this picture, but you don't see what's happening as an effect from this instant. The same, it's a universal principle actually, because time doesn't stand still. The future is constantly falling into the past. You have to take into account that Muhammad lived in a time when his fellow human beings over there, they were very primitive and very aggressive, and were heeding death penalty and all kinds of things, and you also have to take into account that the Quran, what's written in the Quran, is not Muhammad's real. It's what Muhammad really said and told. That's not the case. But because if you want to find out what Muhammad really said and taught, you will find in the Goblet of the Truth. That's the book. That's actually what he taught. And if you regarding the half-truth, is that in those days when he had contact with this extraterrestrial man, he was in contact with an extraterrestrial. He had to refer to this God or Allah. Half-truth is that he has great might. As an extraterrestrial, he has great might, but he's not the founder of the universe, of course. And so that's also the case with a certain number of preachers in religion. We know of a couple of them. They are still preaching in the church, but in their mind, when they speak about God, they don't mean the God of the Bible, but they, in their own mind, they think about creation, about impersonal creation. But through this, they can teach all the same kind of truth of behavior, how people should behave and be and act among each other. They can give and convey some truthful knowledge to the believers. And so it's the same like when Billy started in 1975. He was speaking about Pleiadians, and there was a reason behind this, because about 15 or 20 years later he came forward with the fact that actually the Pleiades, these people are not coming from the Pleiades but from the Plejaren. But from the beginning he said they are about 500 light years away from Earth. But the Pleiades here on our night sky, they are not about 420 light years or so away. So this distance was correct, but the name wasn't correct. And this had an intelligent and positive intent behind this misnaming, so to say, because all these cheats and all these fakers who said they had contacts with Semjase or people from the Pleiades were disclosed as cheaters. Sometimes you have to say not the whole truth to human beings, because being confronted with the whole truth would perhaps break them and bring them to a delusion, or would evoke so huge trouble within this human being that his normal quality of life would vanish. And so you find this also in your private reach. You know exactly, if I am telling this person about God is not real or something like this, there will be all kinds of negative effects and so. But of course, to lie deliberately and to negative effect for human beings, that they are being hurt or damaged or in this kind, then that's a different thing. In the book, The Psyche, Billy is writing about autosuggestion, QE method, and so that these are not, should not be applied, especially not by human beings who have already psychic troubles, because our subconsciousness, which is not the same as the unconscious, is working logically. And therefore, you should never try to avoid things and say to myself, I will not smoke anymore, because the subconsciousness of the human being brings will everything, I have to tell it differently, everything that we keep in mind and focusing on is our subconsciousness is trying to fulfill, and words like not or no have no meaning with our subconsciousness, because if we are focusing on I don't like to smoke, I will not smoke, and so in the focus is smoking, and then our subconsciousness is contributing and has all kinds of impulses to focus on smoking. And this effect, and perhaps also another important fact that people don't know is that if I'm saying I will do this, I will stop smoking, is not the same as when I say to myself, now I stop. That's a huge difference, because if I'm saying I will not continue smoking, you don't stop. That's different. If you want to successfully achieve something, you have to do it. And you have to say, I'm going, not I will go to, so I'm going, I will stop smoking, and then stop smoking. This is the correct way. And what's written in the meditation book is this is something different, because in the meditation you have to always keep in mind that you do everything for yourself. Everything a human being does in his or her entire life is always, in the first case, done for oneself. And this is also so in meditation. And these rules in meditations are valid, of course, for all human beings, but each human being has to find out what is suitable for herself or himself, because every human being is standing on another situation and place in life and in evolution and in learning. And so you have some basic counsel, of course, that you can give, but living the life is the task and responsibility of every human being, himself or herself. Don't know, because he bought this camera, as far as I know, from his brother. When in 1975 he was ordered to get a camera to go out, and so he got a cheap one from his brother, and this was like it is, and so he had to use a camera that he can operate with one hand, and so he just could push the trigger and turn the wheel with his thumb, and that's all. And he made his photos because the objects were posing for him, and he had just to shoot the photos. Could be, but I don't think so, because since he doesn't have to do a model, it didn't matter whether this ring has been stuck on or not, because the objects were farther away. They are so stupid, because they are stuck on these claims, and everyone is reading the same claims from the other ones, and they are simply not capable to think openly and logically, because this huge amount of objects. You have, for instance, in Hassenböhl, that's down the valley, up the valley, he has made about 20 or 25 or 30 photos. You see all kinds of directions. You see in the background the same clouds, same clouds, in the same, within 1 hour, he made in the evening, he made these photographs. People don't, all these critics, they don't think, don't think, because they even think, because they are thinking that's not true from the beginning. They are not open to say, I should have a neutral look, and I have to look at all the details, and not just on what these people said about 40 years ago, the skeptics 40 years ago. They don't look at the proof and the evidence that's around. And there's no case on this world that someone even comes near the Billy Meier case. There is so full of evidence, and I will be in Canada in September, and I will do a presentation, and I will focus on all these on this evidence. And you can be sure after my lecture, that's the definitive judgment of the Billy Meier case. And anyone later who will come with all these stupid and ignorant claims and so can be directed to this. Listen to this, look at this, think about this. There's no need any longer for any evidence, because all the truth and reality doesn't need human beings. The truth is existing whether there are human beings on this planet or not. The truth doesn't need human beings, but human beings, these are actually, it's more, I think it's much more intelligent to look at reality than just to have a belief of something that does not exist. The study group, yeah, it could be the chance, but not this year. I've already made my plans, because I have on 2 weekends I have my duties, my presentations and lectures, and in between I'm alone out in nature that we cannot find here in Switzerland. Perhaps another year. Yeah, Switzerland is overcrowded. Here it's beautiful, but if you go down, you travel through from Zurich Airport to Geneva. You don't hardly see a part of Switzerland where there are no houses. All the villages are like everywhere else in the world, or in many places. Every year we have Switzerland is growing of about 65,000 more human beings coming from other countries. In the last 15 or so years, we have 1 million more human beings. All these need houses, cars, streets, and so Switzerland is a limited land, and if you have every year more people in the size of a city, everything gets more narrow and more narrow, and you have to go into the Alps, into the mountains, to find secluded places. And so in Canada, in these provincial parks, you find areas where where I'm alone. I can go myself. I can jump into the lakes and can hike up where no one is around. Yeah, it's the privilege because extraterrestrials have been visiting this planet since about 22 million years. And several of them have died here, and their spirit form is connected with this planet. And this is a we are now living in the final stages of a very, very ancient mission by the Nicodemian spirit form. And this very ancient mission will come to an end in about 2000 years by this spirit form going back to its original realm. And so, yeah, somewhere in the universe this must happen, and now we are lucky that this is happening on this planet. But unfortunately, 90.99999% of the human beings of this planet are not even aware that this is happening, and they will turn in their grave later if they realize they have been the ignorant ones, having not taken the chance to realize the huge impact and the huge importance of what is happening right now on this planet. And even the Plejaren are coming here to learn from Billy, from his teaching. And so this is actually the most important historical occurrence in all time since now on this planet, and will be the most important historical occurrence or event in all coming future. Yeah, I can just tell you that the Plejaren don't know the origin. Billy doesn't know also. It's a mystery, and of course we cannot expect to happen the same here, because terrestrial humankind is much too low evolved to be able to just change their thinking by such an influence, because our brain capacities, our use of our brain structures is far too low for such an occurrence to happen. No. It's just one of the many planets. The human being will live, and sometime in the future they will leave the planet, because when the sun is dying in a couple of billion of years, the planets will have ceased to exist even before, and everything has to live according to the law of becoming and passing, werden und vergehen. Everything that is material starts to exist and ends to exist, and so it's also for our Earth. It's just a little planet outside the outer skirts of the Milky Way, and just that it has come into existence, it will pass sometime in the future. All the people who are starting to read the contact reports here in the 70s, if they read this, it's a unique document of how people should not behave. It's really yes, they must read by themselves how difficult this forming of this center, the first stages, all these troubles and all these efforts and all these Enttäuschungen that have happened here, and many members went away. They couldn't stand all the hardship of the working for 20 hours in one row, all these kinds of things, and all the kinds of treacherous behaving, and all kinds of ego trips, and so. But finally we have succeeded here. We are a group that is working together. Many have left, but there is a hardcore is keeping the work up, and we will continue to do so. And as we have seen, for instance, in the United States, there have been various groups, even Landesgroups, that couldn't cope with the factors that are really necessary for building a group according to the spiritual teaching, because the basic is like is democracy actually, that there is no one in the group that has more rights than the other, that you have understanding for the other members, that you leave and respect their private sphere, and you don't force any of your co-members to do anything, that you really try to live freedom, and for this you have to work out freedom within yourself, like peace. And this is a very hard process with all kinds of fighting and leaving and coming and so. And all the groups on this planet will have to undergo these kinds of group building processes. You cannot expect a bunch of people coming together and be successful without any troubles. And all the peoples, all the human beings who are forming as groups and wanting to be a part of the FIGU mission should be realized this, and from the beginning should be open for constructive collaboration, and having the understanding that things may go differently than one has than is an ideal picture a person has. It's a giving and taking, and what's also very important is to be always aware that there's a huge religious force around this planet that has been built up for thousands of years by all the believers, that is really does have an impact on the minds of the consciousnesses of the human beings, and that it needs really being if you start reading the spiritual teaching, the psyche, the might of the thoughts, all these books, you must be aware that reading alone is not brings not the desired effect, because you have to start studying really what you are reading and comparing with your own life, and implementing, not trying to, but implementing what you have learned into your own life. And through this you get kind of a fundament, a basis, where you can stand firm and where you are not, where you can grow and where you can withstand all the influences that are coming from the outside, and be helpful for other human beings. But in order to be able to help other human beings, you have to first find strength and really a hold in your own life. If you are feeble, you have no real compass, no real light tower within yourself. You will always float like clouds in the wind in the direction where you can have no control of. And so but it's important that groups are built, but it's also important that everyone who is getting in contact with spiritual teaching is first focusing on studying it for himself or herself and implementing it to the everyday life. Yes, and to want to be better than others. Egoism, yes, the ego is really But of course, ego, to have an ego is also important, but to not misusing it, that's the important thing, to look upon oneself as a part of the humankind of this planet and not to be a better or the most important human being on this planet, and to also respect what the other person says. You don't have to agree with what other human beings said, but you have to know every human being is standing on another place in life, has another way behind him or her of learning, of realizing, and being kind with other human beings, but also to, in certain instances, to have a firm voice and saying, no, this is not good, and so.
All right, Christian, that's all for today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.